Welcome back to the TruGolf Academy. You've joined me, Jon Watts, today at Branston Golf and Country Club. Today's video is going to be about how using two range buckets in your practice is really going to improve your leg work and make you strike it more consistently. Stay tuned to find out more. As mentioned, today's video is all going to be about the leg work. And I'm going to show you a drill that actually is going to be focusing on good leg work in the backswing, the downswing, and into impact. So this is a real multi-use exercise. So I'm going to be using two range buckets. You can use the square type as well. These ones are probably a little bit better, more the rounded range buckets. And I'm going to put one on top of the other. So I'm actually obviously putting the small sides towards each other. So this pyramid effectively is going to go between my legs. And this is going to help me for a lot of different reasons. So let me talk you through what faults I see and how this is going to help you fix it. And then you could relate this to you if it's a backswing thing, if it's a downswing thing, if it's an impact thing. So one fault that we might see on the backswing is the leg sliding too much away from the target. So the gap between the knees will close a little bit, of course it will, but we really want hip rotation here, chest rotation through the thoracic spine. What we don't want is a lot of slide or swaying movement off the ball. So if you've got these buckets between your knees and your legs are sliding too much on the backswing, we'd start to see you knocking the bucket over, so the top bucket off the bottom bucket. So that's a good backswing part that we should be able to make our backswing and still keep the buckets. Now I'm just nudging it there, so I guess you could even start with it closer towards your trail knee. So that for me as a right-handed golfer is my right knee. And yes, I'm touching it there, the gap isn't closed, but I haven't knocked them over because I'm creating rotation of hips and torso rather than sliding, swaying off the ball too much. So this could really work for your backswing. On the downswing, what we want to see, very similar thing. What we don't want to see is the leg sliding towards the target too early and someone's pressure going all over to their lead side too quickly. We want it to be a gradual movement of shifting pressure from our trail foot to our lead foot. And pressure is the key word there rather than weight transfer. You tell someone to transfer their weight and they're definitely thinking more about this sort of movement, whereas actually we are coiling up, applying pressure through the ground or into the ground through our trail foot, and on the downswing we're applying it more to our lead leg. That's very different to swaying and sliding. So what we should be able to do on the downswing is on the start of the downswing actually keep the width between our knees, which I've talked about on a number of different videos before, but if I keep that the width between my knees at the start of the downswing to almost center my hips, and I'll put some links to some videos I filmed before about centering the hips, and you'll see me talk about this and just give you some other drills and exercises to get back to this almost this 50-50 position. The likelihood is actually we're going to be a bit more onto our lead side, but we haven't gone there all at once. So it's this movement that we're looking for, this settle movement at the start of the downswing rather than sliding. If I slide towards the target too much, see this foot come up too early, we're going to be knocking over that bucket. We do actually want to knock the bucket, but we want to knock it lower down. So I'm trying to keep the bucket between my knees, keep the bucket between my knees here, and feel like I knock it over at impact, into impact, because my trail knee, my trail foot is rolling towards my lead leg to allow my body to open up. So it's going to work on a number of different areas. If you are a slider, too much lateral movement away from the target, you're going to knock the buckets. If you're a slider towards the target, shifting too much pressure too early towards your lead leg, you're going to knock the buckets over early on the downswing. Or if you are someone who leans back, doesn't really use their body well enough, you're not going to knock these buckets at all. Where we want to knock them is this last stage here. So I've kept the buckets between my knees, kept the buckets between my knees, and knock the bucket off here into that finish position because my trail foot is actually rolling inwards to allow my body to start to open up. So this works on a number of different areas depending on what your fault is. I'm just going to go ahead. This is relevant. I get the question for a lot of my videos. Is this relevant? You're using an iron. Is this relevant for a driver? Is this relevant for a hybrid? Absolutely relevant with all clubs. You can do it with any club. I'm just hitting a mid-iron here. So I'm going to go ahead and set up to this one and then just move those buckets in place. Maybe starting them just slightly closer towards your trail foot. That position we want, so we're knocking the buckets over nearer impact. So I'm going to do a nice slow pace one to start with. Good. So divot was occurring at or just after impact. I managed to keep the buckets in place, knock the bucket over more into impact. Let me just try and put a little bit more speed into that one. I'll have to move those buckets slightly just because of the divot I've taken. I guess I could make it tough and play out my own divot, but I won't. Here we go. So a little bit more pace to this one. So that felt really solid. Really felt like I used my legs quite efficiently there. Best contact, I found it a little bit harder at the slower pace, but I'd start at a slow pace. Definitely to get that feeling, I've kept the buckets in position because I've kept some width between my knees. I've got this settling stage, as I call it, centering the hips here, where I haven't knocked the buckets over, but I knock the buckets over into impact as I start to effectively drive my trail side towards my lead side and get my body more open through impacts. This is a real multi-use exercise that could be for backswing, downswing, or impact. So if you have one of those faults, I would use these buckets in your practice, just on the driving range, on the practice area, to improve your leg work, and I know that's going to improve your quality of strike. If you did enjoy the content video, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel as well. It is for free. New content every Tuesday and Thursday, and I will have some Saturday specials coming your way as well. So make sure you don't miss them. Cheers guys, we'll see you soon.